Almost everyone knows Tasmania is famous for its scrumptious apples. If in doubt, try a free sample and you'll be convinced. Besides apples and cider, excellent wine is produced by the local wineries. Brookfield Vineyard is very popular and well patronised by the locals, which is always a good sign. Besides wine, Brookfield has a restaurant, coffee shop, souvenirs and a great variety of ice cream. Most nights, diners are entertained during their evening meal by local, mainland and international artists who perform for free. Camping on the land provided time to learn more about the Brookfield Vineyard. Helen Lindsay, the owner, provided an informative tour which included the Tudor Court model village.
This is what the shed looked like back in the 1980s, and it was gradually deteriorating, and that's what it was like the day we bought it in 1994. Every window was broken and it was all starting to rot away. This is the original staircase that used to go from this floor up to the next floor, and of course we weren't allowed to have the public going up a staircase like that. So a friend of mine's given me a cow collection to put on there. That's the original door, and the trucks used to come in here for the flour and seed drying. This is the back wall of the original shed that was built back in the late 1930s for flour and vegetable seed drying for Yates Seeds. It was built by a German man by the name of Eugene Klinger. That part of the shed is heritage listed, and it is now the tallest standing weatherboard shed in Tasmania. The staircase is made of myrtle, and it's all one great big log that we had. And this is a hue and pine log. It wasn't a matter of how we could get it in here, it was a matter of not being able to get it out. When the first 10 years when we owned the building, a chap who used to go up into the bush had a licence to go and get a whole lot of hue and pine, and he used this as a workshop. And then this was just one of the pieces that he left here when he moved out.
John Bellotta started making this village at Dover before it moved to Taroona, where it was opened for public viewing in 1957. John was unable to walk and had very limited use of his hands. In fact, movement of only 3 fingers on his right hand was possible. Despite this handicap, John spent 12 years making this beautiful display of replicas of buildings he had known in England. John Bellotta lived very close to this inn before coming to Australia. The buildings are made of dental plaster, wire, matches and paint. The matches were sometimes split and cut into 30 pieces to be used in the formation of the windows. The trees were made on a twisted wire frame with a little dental plaster added, then moss threaded on to form leaves. As John was unable to use his left hand, the animals and figures were begun by placing a thin piece of wire into a matchbox. Then the wire was crossed over to shape the limbs before the dental plaster was painted on with a fine brush. The tiny figures were dressed in period costume, and John was very particular that the costumes and buildings should be as authentic as possible.
This is the parish church of St Mary's of Chilham in Kent. This attractive perpendicular Gothic structure was begun in the 13th century, but was mainly constructed in the 15th. The tower is chequered with flint and local stone, and also contains some Roman bricks and tiles, which is quite common in many East Kent churches.
It took John Bellotta 2 years to complete his church. Almost 2,000 tiny pieces of matchsticks were used to form the beautiful Gothic windows. The clock is a replica of the original clock, featuring only one hand.
The large yew tree in the churchyard was thought to have been planted about 690 AD.
There were some horrific storms throughout England in 1987 which blew it down. Suckers from its roots have now grown up.
These are 2 of 5 roundhouses in the village of Verrion in Cornwall. A local vicar built one for each of his 5 unmarried daughters. The chimney and cross on top of each varies.
Why circular?
They were designed that way to avoid nooks, crevices and corners in which the devil might hide.
Sadly, John Pallotta died at the age of 47 in 1971. Tudor Court Model Village is now cared for in private ownership, in a manner John would have liked. We remind you how John made the tiny figures on a frame of wire with plaster and paint. He has made them look so lifelike, which is a wonderful achievement for someone with such a severe disability.